Good evening. This is Dee of H&D Abroad. We have a beautiful conversation planned for you this evening on our Self-Care Thursday. We are back to matters of the heart, which includes connection. And you all know that on our channel, we are all about community, connecting, learning from each other, and valuing the gifts that we have to share with others. I'm going to say hello to my friends in the chat that are coming on. Good to see if I just every time I see, From Lack to Legacy, Sandra in the chat, I am so happy to see that she is sacrificing her early mornings to be with us. Hello, servant teacher Nikki. Hey, Mimi Slow Travels. Hey, Tasha. Y'all, we had a good time talking about this topic this weekend, with Winsome earlier, and I was just like, we need some more of that. It needs to spread. This love needs to spread. Hey, Sabangale. Hey, Francis. Hey, Tanya Brooks. Good evening, ladies. This is this is a conversation that centers positivity, love, and connection. That allows Black women to take care of themselves, to recognize areas of their life that they may not be paying close attention to. So we bring it forward and we share our own stories together. This is not just a conversation between myself and our guest, which you all will get a chance to meet shortly, but this is a conversation that we are having together. Y'all, Stephanie Perry done showed up. Okay. All right. You must have heard, your ears must have been burning, ma'am, because we were just talking about you. So I just want to say thank you all so much for joining. Hey, the educator, welcome to this space. I am Dee of H&D Abroad. If this is your first time joining, welcome. On our channel, we are highlighting the benefit that moving abroad can be to Black couples, to create generational wealth and to embrace a healthier lifestyle. My stance on it is I'm not going to wait till we move. I'm going to start it now. So these self-care, embracing well-being and wellness is happening right now. So I want to say thank you for joining. We don't retire, we ascend. All right. All right. I see that channel coming up. Hey, Dee from Black Girls Invest Too. I want to say, as we are beginning this conversation, that, and I'm gonna go ahead and bring Winsome in. This is a space for us to share, but Winsome and I are not coming as mental health professionals. We are we are people who have had crisis management training. We've had a lot of information and use in our daily lives where we understand why connection is important. Winsome, has started a new ministry. That's what I'm gonna call it, Winsome. She has started a new ministry, and I said, please look at this. The Surgeon General of the United States is talking about loneliness. What a great match for what you're doing. Before the pandemic, we were already looking at mental health, issues of depression and anxiety, because that is the work that I do in my everyday life. But the pandemic really brought forward a lot of these issues of why it's important to connect. Who is really not reaching out or accessing resources and services that are available in their community? The Exodus Summit community has ministered to me, and that is what brought Winsome to my world. And I have celebrated her channel and wanted to bring her into this space, to share her work and her the research that she's done to begin this conversation. So, Winsome, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, introduce Big Up Yourself to our audience.
Yeah. Greetings, everyone. Wagwan family. My name is Winsome Alexander, and I am a self empowerment mentor specializing in helping survivors of trauma to heal and reclaim their personal power and rebuild self esteem. My channel is titled Big Up Yourself, celebrating the original you because I want us to do just that. Acknowledge, recognize, and celebrate ourselves for surviving all manner of ish, right? And go on to accomplish great things, even as we continue to heal. And I'm happy to be here sharing space with you guys this evening.
Absolutely. I've asked Winsome, give me those resources, girl. They are in the
Well,
description that she's going to reference over the course of our discussion today.
mhm,
This this conversation started out with um, me sharing. I think it was Tamron Hall had the Surgeon General on her
yes,
show
yes.
talking about
Mhm.
not just loneliness, but the epidemic
The
of
epidemic of
loneliness. So
loneliness.
we are noticing more than an uptick of people and loneliness. We're seeing the effects of prolonged loneliness on the US population. So
Mhm.
how do you want to start this conversation about loneliness? Because as the title says, we're going to talk about being alone
Yes,
versus being
being
lonely as well.
lonely.
So why don't we
Mhm.
start?
Well, yeah. So, in my research of this topic of loneliness, I found out that the Surgeon General, which is also known as America's doctor, has declared loneliness a national epidemic, which means it's so widespread that everyone is at risk. Everyone. He says it's a matter of urgent importance, right? Urgent importance. Like 1 in 2 Americans are experiencing loneliness. 1 in 2. That means in any couple of friends or anything, any two people anywhere, one of them is bothered by loneliness. And now he says the effects of loneliness on our health is likened to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. 15 cigarettes a day. Just imagine smoking 15 cigarettes in a day and what that does to your body and your brain. Loneliness has similar effects. He says it's as bad as the opioid epidemic. Guys, it's no joke. We need to pay attention and address aloneness in our lives because it can actually lead to premature death.
Mhm.
And let me tell you something, as I was reading up, I was like, it kept coming up: premature death, premature death, premature mortality. I mean, the doctor says it needs to be a public health priority. And we actually need a cultural shift to the awareness of the implications of prolonged isolation. Loneliness, taking care of our loneliness is actual self care, you guys,
Eh,
right?
eh, We have one of the things that you brought forward on your channel on Sunday evening was it's almost difficult to recognize that we're alone. I mean,
Yeah.
that we're feeling lonely. I'll
Mhm.
say it that way, because the internet creates a false sense of connection.
of
When
connection.
I can read about what my friends are doing and send them a text message or watch you and I laughing about, "Hey, I'm watching a show and I'm laughing out loud
I'm
and
telling you.
I feel like I'm making a connection."
Exactly. I don't feel lonely. I don't feel lonely. But guess what? I I did a loneliness quiz just out of like, just like, let me just do this quiz because I'm thinking I'm not lonely, anymore.
Mhm,
Um, and so in the quiz, it's asking the questions going down, and I answer some of the questions as never. But then a lot of the questions I answer sometimes.
mhm.
And so at the end, the results showed me to be moderately lonely. And why am I even surprised that I'm moderately lonely? I spend a whole lot of time by myself, loving it too, loving my own company, loving it, loving my solitude. I talked about reading. I get a kick out of reading comments. I can be lost for hours reading comments and laughing up a storm by myself in this house. No, I need to cut that out and I need to get up and go and make some friends, which I've started to do. So it must be at some level I knew I was spending too much time by myself because I've been making effort to go and meet friends.
I promise you. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to probably January
Mhm.
after Exodus Summit opened the Facebook group for those of us who had purchased tickets. They opened the Facebook group. And so, we're just pouring in. People are saying what they want to do, what they, want once we got to Morocco. Um, and someone said, if there are going to be 100 of us, I can't wait till we get there to learn about you all because I'm going to miss somebody. And I thought that was such a revolution. There were several people that we got together in little groups. But y'all, when I got to know Winsome was that video you did about your loot when we came back. And I was just like,
Goodness.
I was like, she there's so much joy
Oh
that
my
comes
goodness.
out of you that, like you said, I can laugh by myself, at myself, with myself. There's so and to
Girl.
think that this assessment, which we have in the description, we
Yes.
have the loneliness quiz that you can take in the description, that you were identified as someone that has mild. And let me tell you the real trick. Those of us who have YouTube channels, a lot of us have shared that we are we put forward this connection because we have a desire to share information, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily because we're extroverts.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us struggle with
Mm-hmm.
varying degrees of feeling like an introvert,
Mm-hmm.
needing to spend time alone to
Mm-hmm.
nourish ourselves,
Right.
but it has to be in balance. So yes, I need my alone time. I need silence.
Yes.
I do house sitting by myself, y'all, because I need some alone time.
But too much of it can actually lead to healthcare issues or illnesses. And yeah, so addressing loneliness, as I said before, the, oh, that's for you to read. I'm so used to reading the comments of the But addressing loneliness is a matter of self care. You're actually minding your health when you take steps to correct loneliness in your life.
Mhm,
So you
mhm.
need to take as much care with that as you would any method of self care, right? I know one sister, Yvette, said she has put sisterhood on her vision board as her reminder to make friends. And I just think that's great. I just think that's great, man. Mm.
I put it on mine for 20 like, it was literally like, I drew the meetup, the Morocco meetup into my life because I put it when I took my career break, I put more friends on my vision board, and I know that looked silly, but I was just like, it has to be intentional. I wanna share also, after we left the core, part of the Morocco meetup, I did a video, that's on our channel called No Friends. And I was what I recognized after spending time with other Black women who were intentional about engaging each other is how little of that I do as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
it when you're a child, when you're,
Yes.
you're at school,
Yes.
you're bumping around. It's fertile ground
Uh-huh.
for being near people to do things. When you have to come out of your normal schedule and take time off with, PTO, or take time away from, "Hey, I could sleep at my house, but I should go do a meetup with a friend."
Yes.
I
Making friends
It
as
has to be intentional and
intentional.
creating that space.
Yeah.
So so t talk to me, Winsome, because what I we're talking about how important it is, and I don't know if people recognize the signs.
Well, first of all, let us, and Mimi made a good point.
Yeah.
Didn't realize, sometimes we don't realize we are lonely, right? Like I didn't quite realize I was lonely until I took that test. But in my research of the topic, like I mentioned before, I kept reading about premature mortality, premature death over and over because here are some guys. That's what Stephanie Perry. So I'm so sorry. I'm just reading the comments. I'm sorry. Okay. Um, some of the diseases linked to loneliness, guys, is like inflammation. Inflammation is an underlying cause of a lot of diseases, right? Loneliness increases inflammation in your body.
Mhm.
Cardiovascular diseases, right? And everything that comes with cardiovascular disease, strokes. I was surprised to find that loneliness can lead to strokes, obesity, depression, anxiety. And the one that greatly concerns me is dementia. Dementia. My God. And I can see how isolation could cause the onset of dementia, right? Because you by yourself, you're not using as much of your brain, you're not exercising your brain as much. So, girl, let me tell you something. Dementia, the fear of dementia is enough motivation for me to go and make some more friends. But yeah,
I want to mention Living Loving Abroad because I was just like, maybe everybody's on this wavelength, because they were talking about how when you are moving to a new place, you need to be ready to
yes,
practice at engaging, or
yes,
it will shift your experience.
yes.
Yeah, you could do it and, kind of live your life independently, but there's so much joy. When we talk about soft landings, it's because people can make connections more readily. There
Mhm.
are groups that meet, there are conversation. You can relate. There are opportunities for you to relate to other people who are going through a similar
A
experience.
similar experience. You talked about Morocco. In going to Morocco, I opted to room with someone on purpose.
Mm.
because my intention was to connect with someone, because I was aware that I needed more friends in my life. My intention was to connect with someone in Morocco. Sure enough, oh my god, I couldn't have found a better roommate than April. Oh my goodness,
Oh.
it was beautiful. And April was on the live on Sunday participating heavily. It was so beautiful. I got what I wanted out of Morocco, and then met other friends that we went on to Portugal. I wouldn't have made it to Portugal if I had not met those friends. You know what I mean? And I love to solo travel. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. But even in my solo travels, I know that there are some of the experiences that would be better enjoyed with a friend. Yeah.
Yes.
So, us thinking about moving abroad and everything, I think I mentioned too that I would love to move to Rwanda, but I'm already shoring up my community.
I'm telling you.
Already. Yeah, because I know I'm going to have some loneliness moments over there in Rwanda. You got to prepare. You got to prepare. Don't think that you're going to move to another country and not feel some loneliness. People who live the nomadic lifestyle, I know that they go through some loneliness from time to time.
Ozzy, I had Ozzy on our channel. She just did a video in December that talked about, just behind the scenes of the nomad lifestyle. You miss you miss important family events, but you also are not making those deeper connections. You
Mm-hmm,
miss making those deeper connections, and that is the balance that we have to have in our lives. So when you were shifting us through the loneliness conversation, and you talked about I mean, there's a stark difference between being alone, um, that creating space for just you,
mm-hmm,
and the idea that loneliness is diminishing
mm-hmm.
parts of ourselves,
Yeah.
that we literally, I mean, it's like, if you don't use your arm, it's atrophic. I mean, it will
Yes.
eventually stiffen.
Yeah. I mean, even basic conversation skills you lose when you spend too much time by yourself. There are actual physiological processes that are happening in your body when you spend too much time alone. And okay, so they say loneliness is different from being alone. But I'm thinking about this and I'm like, either way, you are alone. It's the same physiological processes that are happening in your body, whether you
Mhm,
think you're alone, or whether you think you're lonely or just alone.
mhm, mhm.
It's the same changes that's going on in your mind and in your body.
I I feel different from everyone else,
Hmm.
and these are, we've talked about, you and I, before we got on tonight, we're talking about populations that can tend to be vulnerable to loneliness,
Yeah.
and how, um, just, it's not that they need to make connections with 10 or 15 people, but the power of one person.
One person, my one person in Morocco, my one person in Morocco made the whole daggone trip for me.
When I look at how much scam
Hmm.
scams are for our senior population,
Hmm.
scammers are not coming with the game. Scammers are coming at calling as a friend, someone
Yes.
who is concerned about,
Yes.
and and being vulnerable to loneliness makes you vulnerable to scammers who know. My father-in-law said, I can go weeks without my phone ringing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is as though I've just once I stepped out of my career, like, you lose so much. I I'm mentioning men because of the
Yeah,
PBS
yeah,
special that I sent to you about why a
yeah.
growing number of American men are saying that they are in a friendship recession.
Recession. A friendship recession. And two, the older you get, yes, because you're less active and all the other reasons, the older you get, the more loneliness you're going to experience if you don't. Man, I'm taking steps to not be lonely in my old age. But the older you get is the more prone you are to loneliness, right? And I discovered, sadly, that the rate of suicide or death by suicide
Mhm.
increases with age. And I
Wow.
learned that after 55, between 55 and 85 and beyond, we have the highest rates of suicide. That's so sad to me. And that's because people are lonely. And you mentioned being susceptible to scamming. Yeah, because yeah, the scammers come as friends and people are looking for friendship, for connection, for community. So you come as a friend and they are like so open and ready to accept you and get carried away. Oh my God. We have an innate need to belong. And when that need is not being met, a lot of problems arise, right? Even our self esteem gets eroded when we feel alone. Our
Wow.
sense of safety,
Wow.
right, is grounded in connection with others. Our survival depends on the more support we have, the more likely we are to survive any situation. So we need
Wow.
each other.
We do.
Mhm,
We do. I thought the best benefit out of the pandemic was remote work
mhm.
until
Until,
until there was rumors of going back. And I was just like, I'll quit first because I didn't realize I had cocooned myself
mhm,
in my house. I don't have to dress a certain way. We don't have webcams. I mean, like, what it was actually bringing up anxiety because I had been working from home. The thing that I thought was going to be the treasure for me wound up, I mean, we went 1 year, then 2 years, then 3 years, and I'm learning that I have to make connection. Our teams are now more intentional. They bought us webcams so that we could have that face-to-face time. We're paying attention. Employers are paying attention to the data that says that face-to-face connection, being able to connect as a team is important.
mhm,
I'm definitely not saying that we should all be back in the office, but I do recognize
mhm,
a difference in myself
mm.
because of remote those of us who tend to like to be alone
Yeah.
really enjoy remote work
Mhm,
and have to be
mhm,
intentional about
mhm.
connection as remote workers.
Because yeah, like I mentioned before, I love my alone time. I love my solitude. I do. But is it healthy for me to spend this much time by myself? No, it's not. No, it's not. And I have to be honest about that, right? And now that I know the health implications of spending too much time by myself, you best believe I'm going to be making some more friends. Honey, we were never meant to be alone, right? Um, Even in the garden, God looked at Adam and said, "No, it's not good for you to be alone. Let me give you some
I
company."
didn't even think about that.
Oh,
I didn't think about that. You are
yeah.
so right. I, my dad before he retired, and he you know he worked as long as they would, they found ways for. if you've been with the company for 30, 40, he was with the university for over 40 years, they
Yeah.
find ways to, help you to retire.
Mhm.
Um, he I I didn't I wasn't hearing, I this is my friend group. I didn't recognize that. I just kept saying, "Why won't you retire? Why won't you retire?"
Yeah.
We have a sense of identity and
Yeah.
connection with
Yeah.
our work, and I think
Yes.
intentional connections outside of the workplace
Yes.
help us to recognize we can connect and increase our full whole self
Yeah.
outside of that work identity. And so in the retirement conversation, I think we do need to address, how do you make connections when the first thing that Americans, because I didn't even realize that until we started traveling, but the first thing Americans ask is, what do you do?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
And so what I do is a part of the identity that I
Our
share.
identity.
When
Right.
meeting someone, what do I say when I'm retired?
Yeah. What do you say when you're retired? You
I
know?
do as little as possible.
Like
That's why.
Stephanie said, like Stephanie said. I love that. I do as little as possible, but that's why with all this now, knowing what we know now, we have to be proactive and intentional about shoring up our support system, right? So that if you are connected to some people doing different things, then maybe you're doing things with those people, and you could answer the question as, I do such and such, instead of saying I nothing. Right? There is safety in numbers. um
So, okay, so y'all have just opened the door for me to say, so Winsome,
uh-huh.
your channel is a refuge. Your channel
Mhm.
is helping people to think critically about, how how do I embrace the different aspects of myself, but you're also offering probably one of the most unique services that I've heard of, and that is, hey, if I don't want to be a burden, or I want to talk to someone who wants to hear me. Can you
Yeah.
talk about what you are doing in that space?
And that's what opened up this whole thing about addressing loneliness on our channels, right? Because I have established a venting hotline where anyone who needs to get something off their chest, if you're lonely, if you're exasperated, you're discombobulated, whatever, you want to complain about something, you can talk to me about it, right? Listening is my gift. Helping people feel better about themselves is my gift. And so I am, a matter of fact, I consider myself an intense listener, because I'm really, really listening to you, what you're feeling, what you're going through. I'm hearing what you don't even say. I'm visualizing everything you're saying to me. I'm an intense listener. So I offer this hotline so that you can book a session and talk to me about anything. And that is born out of way back when I was new to America. I shared this on my channel on Sunday. When I was new to America, I had no friends or family. I came here by myself. I lived in the Bronx, and let me tell you something. I would get so lonely. I would pick up the phone and just dial. Back then, you had the yellow pages, yeah, that phone book.
Mhm.
I would just dial random numbers just to be able to talk to somebody. Loneliness is real. And let me tell you, I also shared on the channel that I know for a fact that loneliness can get so bad, it can cause suicide attempts, right? We talked about people like Anthony Bourdain, Kate Spade, and Robin Williams and them. I know that they got to a place where they felt so alone and so overcome by whatever they were going through that the only escape was that.
It
Thankfully,
hurts.
there were crisis hotlines. Let me tell you something. Back in New York, back in the day, they should still do this. On the TV, they would actually advertise a crisis number. I didn't realize how much I had internalized that information that I actually remembered the crisis hotline number and called it when I needed help in New York. I'm telling you, I'm telling you. So this is the reason that remembering these things and recognizing my gift for listening, I offer this this mentoring hotline to you.
Absolutely. I just, we should have multiple paths. We do still have a national crisis hotline and suicide line. I'm posting that now. That is for literally crisis. So you
Right,
and I both have done crisis center work.
right.
Crisis is a single, it is a single, you are offering, let's talk.
Let's just talk. I'm not a therapist. I've had some training as a crisis counselor because I used to volunteer for the Rape and Suicide Crisis Center. So I have some training and I have some experience. I'm not a regular counselor or a therapist. This is not therapy. This is just let's talk as sisters or sister and brother, whatever. That's all that is. Because some people just need to be heard. Some people just need somebody to hear them. And I can be that person.
When you said this is a gift you can give to a parent,
Yeah.
an aunt, a cousin, someone who may live alone, somebody, you said there are lonely people that are married. Girl, like you were busting all the doors open with people facing loneliness need to have somewhere that they can express their thoughts, not in a therapeutic way, but to have
Right.
someone say, I hear you.
I hear you. I hear you. And most of us, I know I'm talking a lot today, but I'm not much of a talker. I promise you. I am more of a listener. Right. So my friends who talk to me, they often offer to pay me for listening to them because I can listen to you for hours because actually you fascinate me. You and your story absolutely fascinating. Why do you think I do the Big Up Yourself show with all these people? I love the stories. I don't care. I don't, what was your day like? I want to hear everything. I want to hear everything, blow, blah, blah, how your day was. A lot of people don't have that capacity to listen. I am grateful that I do have it.
Because the first thing I said was, how are you going to take care of yourself when you are taking in so much from us?
Girl, I have so much experience with that. I'm able to listen and move on. I don't take it
Mhm.
with me, right? Care. I care about you and I listen to you and I help you feel better about yourself. And then I carry on. I carry on.
Any tips for those of us who recognize, hey, I can be the one person that could make the difference in someone else's life? And I shared with you, hey, I've heard of people quitting their job because literally no one spoke to them. It didn't make a difference that they had a good salary, that it was a good benefit package, that they had all these employee resource groups. They said no one spoke to me, and I'm not for a year. They're
Yeah,
like, "No one spoke to
yeah.
me
But
for a
see,
year."
I hear that. I hear that. And it makes me automatically think But did you speak to anybody? Right? He who would have friends must first show himself friendly. Says right there in Proverbs in the Bible. You have to take responsibility and be proactive to address your own issues, your own issues with loneliness. If you see somebody not talking to you, go talk to somebody, right? Um, um, I was about to say something and it just slipped my mind. Yeah, I was talking to my cousin yesterday. I called her up because I hadn't heard from her in a while, right? And I was like, you know, my mother's phone. My mother is partially immobile. She lives there in New York by herself and everything. But my mother's phone constantly rings. Constantly rings. She has so many friends, more friends than me. And I'm like, how come my phone don't? But do I pick up the phone and call anybody? No, I don't. So if you want some friends, you got to put yourself out there to make some friends, right? Some of us have some superficial connections, superficial where the people we're connected with don't even really know us, don't know us. We're afraid that if they knew the real us, that we'd be rejected, right? Um, but there are some remarkable things about us that if we shared it with people, it would deepen our connections. And actually, if we have time a little later, we can go through an activity together, where we can share something about us. But it takes courage, guys. It does take courage to make friends as adults, right? Courage to open up, to share and be vulnerable. It takes courage to address our loneliness. And first, we have to admit that we're alone. I told you I was there talking about, oh, I enjoy my own company and everything and everything. Didn't realize I was actually lonely until I did the quiz, right? And there is a fear also of rejection and also the problem of social anxiety. Those are
Mhm.
real issues too. But the only way to kind of come to get over these things is to actually practice it. Um, yeah, I I would say I used to be a person that suffered from severe social anxiety. I feel like I don't have that problem anymore because I am comfortable now. I am comfortable now going up to somebody and introducing myself and striking up a conversation. If they reject me, it's okay. I don't have to be liked by everybody. I don't have to like everybody, but I can make effort to connect, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think even on the other side, me as someone that's wanting to improve my connection skills is to hmm, we're talking about human to human connection. If you
Yeah.
have the opportunity to connect in person with someone, try.
Yeah.
If that's not available to you, but we're talking about the power of eye to eye contact.
Yes. Face to face.
The idea that my mouth is moving less and I am not thinking of the next thing to say
Yes.
while someone is speaking.
Yes.
And that the whole idea, the focus of the conversation is to ask at least 3 follow-up questions before interjecting
Yes.
anything about
Yes.
yourself in the conversation. That is hard for some of
It is
us.
hard for some people to do. It's a skill. It is a skill. I'm telling you, because most people just want to talk, love to talk, love to hear. I was thinking I want to do a study on why people talk so much because I'm curious. I'm really curious about why some people talk so much. right? But that aside, yeah. But yeah, so we're said that, yeah, there's a fear of reaching out, and social anxiety. But
Mhm.
I think too, if in making trying to make friends, if you ask a couple of times, um say you invite them out, and you follow them on social media, you make some attempts to connect, and there's no reciprocity, I would say back off,
Mhm.
right? Because you don't want to look weird and you don't want to look creepy. And um yeah, let's make an effort to be friendly, but not don't be too weird or desperate. Don't force it. Let it happen organically, right? As long as you're open and you make yourself available, I feel like the right people will find you. Right.
Stephanie Perry said something. She said, if you consider yourself an introvert, but you're really wanting to connect, she said, intersect with an extrovert and they'll just en- embrace you into that universe. Sometimes you have to, even if you are not intentional speaking up, give yourself the opportunity to to be mm, to be encircled by
Yeah.
a group or an activity or things that are happening that
Yeah.
will allow you to begin to practice those skills. So, um, Winsome and I were talking a little bit about this before we started. If you are a person that's religious, churches,
Mhm.
regardless of the denomination, they have lots of community activities, things people are learning things or sharing things that you can be involved in. I don't move to a new place without first getting a library card because
Yeah.
libraries have these built-in community connections where people are learning, they're sharing skills, and and all people from all walks of life are coming together for a common interest.
I
So
comment.
if sometimes that's easier, hey, I like in that PBS special men are getting together because they like woodworking. I
Yeah.
like to crochet. So,
Yeah.
I can talk about that. That's one of the things in the YouTube Success Society that we answered was, what could you talk about
Yeah.
almost without end? That may be something that you need um, to use as a connection point with others. So
With
something might be difficult because it's not something that is exciting or that gets you energized. Choose something that does, and that helps to. I mean, that level of excitement, even if it's a movie, whatever. I feel like we're not asking you to do something that's unnatural,
right.
but
You
on both
know,
sides, it takes practice.
the Surgeon General described a little activity that we could do. Um, and I thought about how when we are trying to connect with people, if we bring a little something of ourselves to the conversation, to the table, like simple things like sharing pictures of you when you were younger,
Mhm.
right? um People love to share pictures of their pets. um Having a theme, I'm thinking about this too, for when I meet up with friends again, have a theme of what something you want to share that would connect you. I'm thinking about, okay, in Amsterdam. I went to Amsterdam with an Exodus sister. And by the way, most of my friends now are Exodus women. Most of
Amen.
my friends are Exodus sisters. And let me tell you, when I think about the Exodus Summit community, first of all, right, it's a remarkable thing that Stephanie and Rashida are doing, providing a space for melanated women to feel a sense of belonging and security. That's sisterhood. I credit Exodus Summit for many of my new friends. I'm telling you, thank you, Stephanie and Rashida. The love and reference and reverence that
Yes.
Stephanie has for Black women
Yes.
is amazing. It's inspiring. I feel safe in this community. I feel like I belong, right? And I
Yes.
feel like if I reached out to anyone in this community, I would be supported. It's one of the places where I know that I belong.
That's right.
so, so what was my point that I was going to say before that? I forgot. So yeah, be open to inviting people in your space and be willing to share. Oh, that's another thing. This is what prevents us from having deep connections with people. We are afraid of being vulnerable. We are
Mhm.
afraid of sharing. We keep our stories to ourselves, and the truth is our stories is not for us. You've already been through the thing. Your story is for others who would hear it,
Mhm.
right? So and that's why, as someone might say, I overshare. That's okay. I'm gifted to do that. um I try to model vulnerability on my channel, right?
Mhm.
Being vulnerable helps you to connect on a deeper level. You, when you're going through things, you think that you are the only one, and when you open up and share, you realize that no, indeed, you are not the only one, right? So, yeah.
That's why I chose this title, I Feel Different from Everyone Else. The idea is we are unique. Our experience is our experiences make us different. But
Yes,
it should not be a difference that separates us. It's a difference that says, I have something special to give. And so I encourage you, if you are encountering spaces where you feel my vulnerability is it is a negative. It's what I have to be on the defensive. I have to protect myself. That is not a space for you. When Stephanie Perry said, "We meet and greet each other with loving kindness,"
yes,
I was in a room with over 100 Black women
yes,
experiencing the power
yes,
of loving kindness. I'm not saying that Exodus Summit community is for everyone, but what I'm saying is when you take a chance, that means I have to open the door to sharing some of myself to experience and let in that loving
absolutely.
kindness, that it when you make that connection,
Yeah,
you'll open the door just a little bit more and just a little bit more. We mm, we as women have, as we age, the baggage that we bring forward about negative friendships and the casualties of making myself available to people. We carry that, but
hmm,
a closed fist, a closed heart, you miss so much.
you do.
You miss so much of the sunshine that connection can bring. I want to say thank you, Winsome. Thank you for doing this work, going deeper in this work, making true connection opportunities for people to take in themselves and
Mhm,
to gift it to people around them where
mhm,
they can have a place to share. You're
mhm.
doing she does this every week.
Oh
Get in, big up yourself.
it's a
See
pleasure.
see her travel and live her best beautiful life on Instagram. Big up yourself. When I say she is out here sharing the good news that yes,
Yes.
life is for living.
Life is for living. Let me, yeah, life is for living. And learning to love yourself. Man, I'm telling you, it took me over 50 odd years to learn to love and appreciate myself. to the point where I can be open now to invite people in to my space, right? And it just means putting yourself out there and put yourself out there, you know, and it's okay as you're venting new friends. You might not click with everyone, but that's okay. Keep trying until you find people that you click with, right? Like me, in certain personalities are going to exacerbate my anxiety, so I avoid them. And I avoid
That's it.
limit. Yeah, I limit my exposure to them once I discover that they're not my type. But that doesn't stop me from continuing to make effort to find the best fits for me, right? So invite people out, right? Or into your space. I've invited some Exodus women into my home and had a great time.
Yes, you
Um,
did.
yes, just last week, me and Tracy Cromwell, another Exodus sister who wrote this wonderful book, we met up for lunch in Houston on her invite. Last weekend, I went to see The Color Purple with a young woman I met, much younger than me. She took me to see The Color Purple and everything. Girl, she paid for everything.
Don't miss
We
out on those friendships now.
I'm telling you, we went to a fancy movie theater. We had dinner there and drinks, and then we went for a walk after, and we went to another bar, and she paid for everything. How did I meet this person? I went to a meetup, the app Meetup. I went to a meetup and met this young woman, and we become friends like that. So put yourself out there. And I didn't want to go that evening to that meetup. I wanted to stay on the sofa and watch Netflix, and I pushed myself. If I had not gone and pushed myself, I would not have met that beautiful friend. Mhm.
I just want to say thank you, Winsome, for sharing your personal story, sharing with the world that this it is the first step to coming face front with loneliness is to recognize it and that there is a path. Thank you to everyone that joined us today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, the comments have been just excellent. Thank you all for joining us today. Let's get out here.
Yeah,
Loneliness may be an epidemic, but I can connect with one person.
yeah,
That's our challenge with you today is Winsome had us look in our phone and connect. Just send a kind text to one person today. So we encourage you to do that. Thank you all so much. Like, share, subscribe to Winsome's
big up
Big Up
yourself.
Yourself channel. Like, share, subscribe this video. We are so glad to share this space with you all. Have a good evening. Bye bye for now.
Bye.